Welcome to council meeting dated Tuesday the 26th of August. It's great to have everybody here this morning. Just a couple of things that I want to start off with before I get into the order of business as normal. I've brought some daffodils here today because just a reminder of the importance of this week, and particularly the people that support many members of our community as volunteers as people go on their individual cancer journeys. So it's a symbol that for we as leaders of our district recognise how important those volunteers are to our community and how important the symbol of the daffodil means to many people. So I just wanted to start off with that as well. And also just to provide, not everybody sitting around this table remembers Rochelle Falmarlo. She worked at our council for 6 years and before heading to Christchurch City Council, but then with NEMA, and she was a much respected person within our community. She worked with our youth council. She had several leadership roles, but she was the social recovery manager following the Waio Kaikoura earthquake. And last week we farewelled her on Thursday. So I just wanted to recognise Rochelle's work within our district, the leadership she showed, particularly with our young people, and really, she wasn't our first youth officer, might not be the right title, but she came in and probably secured many of those processes, particularly around the Harinui Youth Council and the Harinui Youth Program. So I really just wanted to recognise Rochelle for her time that she spent in the Harinui. Many of the slides at her service last week actually were at Harinui Youth Council events. It was a big part of her life, and many of the events were out, from the Harinui Youth Council days. So it was nice to be able to farewell her with dignity. So thank you for that. I think the only thing I want to recognise is in regard to today's agenda, you've all commented informally as you've come in that this is a wee skinny agenda, and it's a wee skinny agenda because we haven't got Jason's report in here for the financial report, and there is some reasons for that. So I know you've all received an email in that regard, but Jason, if you just would you be happy just to give us a bit of an oversight, so it's we've got it minuted and we understand and have the context of the absence, I guess, of your report that we value every month.
Thanks, Mayor. And I'd like to apologise, but I'm not trying to make an apology because we have transitioned to a new computer system. Some of the reports aren't quite at the level that I have confidence in to provide a financial report to council. We are working on it in the background. We were quite adamant when we transitioned that there were steps in the journey. The first one was making sure payroll was done because get angry staff if they don't get paid. The next one was getting rates out as effectively as possible because we can't operate without the rate money coming in. And the next one was getting creditors paid. So those are the three steps we needed to get out of the way beforehand. And really financial reporting just fell down the priority list. I've got a team that is actually exhausted through the process, so I did not want to put any more pressure on them to get that out. Plus, we're leaping into the annual report. We've done a huge amount on the water service delivery plan, so it's just been a wee bit of a perfect storm not to be able to provide a financial report to you today. I'm certainly confident we'll have something in place for the August, July and August as a catch up. And in the past, the July reports have been a little bit hit and miss anyway. They've been done more out of form rather than of substance, because the first month of any financial year is a bit ordinary. So that is the reason. Like I said, I don't necessarily apologise for that, but it's the circumstances we're in, and just needing to step slowly to get something a bit more accurate than currently.
Look, Jason, I think around this table, you and your team have a high level of respect, and I accept that position, and I also understand the pressure that you and your team often placed under. Often the pressure actually doesn't go away because we get out of one pressure hoop and into another, and this is symbolic of, you know, the process of local government and processes really. So I acknowledge that and I accept that, and I'm sure that there is acceptance around the table for that explanation. So I thank you very much for that, and we'll look forward to the next one. So councillors, that gives us an opportunity to move on in reflection to the agenda today. We've got some minutes that we need to confirm, but I'm also really conscious that at 10:30 we have guests coming in. We have 2 awards to present. Both recipients were unable to attend the Community Service Awards, and so we'll have an award ceremony, if you like, for them, and then join with them, or they'll be welcome to stay and have a cup of tea with us, and then we'll get back to business. So I would probably like to find a pause about 10:25 maybe, so we've got time to allow Marie or whoever staff to get us organised for that small celebration. So if we can be conscious of that, that'll be appreciated. Thank you. So as usual, we have our health and safety matters. We're all very aware of the building. If we needed to exit this building, out the door you entered, or the door to my left, and our assembly point is over by the St John's building. We have received apologies for today's meeting, one from Councillor Fiona Harris and the other from Councillor Pauline White. Although Pauline may be able to attend some parts of the meeting, so Graham will.
She has actually
she's
joined. She's got a camera.
Okay.
I am here temporarily, Madam Mayor.
Okay, so but we'll still accept both councillors as apologies for today's meeting.
You.
Pauline will be perhaps in and out of the meeting. So someone willing to move, someone, thank you Karen, thank you Ross, that we accept the 2 apologies we've received from today's meeting. On agreement to that, please say aye. Okay, that's carried, thank you. So as our normal practice, we will begin with our affirmation. Gives us a chance to think about the world outside and the world inside this building and the duties that we have in front of us today. So we do all pledge that we will faithfully and impartially use our skills, wisdom and judgment throughout the discussions and deliberations ahead of us today in order to make responsible and appropriate decisions for the benefit of the Hiranui district at large. We commit individually and as council to the principles of integrity and respect, and to upholding the values that we believe distinguish and enrich our district. In regard to today's agenda, councillors, is there any conflicts of interest that you've noted? No, that's good. Thank you. And Graham, we're being live streamed and recorded as normal. Thank you. And I'm not aware of any urgent business or any separately circulated information, so that we should have everything in front of us. Thanks, councillor. That's great. Rightio. So that takes us through. I should really welcome Dan over here. Yeah, it's good to have you there. Thank you. Sorry about that. Should have been top of the list, but wasn't quite. Anyway, we have our first set of minutes, which is the council meeting for the 29th of July. It's my understanding that Karen's noted a few in Century Graham already, is that correct? So, if we look at a quick page turn, page 4, 5 and 6, page 7 and 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 16, 17, 18, 19 through page 20. So the minor corrections were
Yes, but we're on, just on page 7, the spelling of Finiston.
oh yeah,
Right,
correct.
and then on page. Okay, 17, under 17.4, that's what I was saying, just the wording in the fourth one. You said the board will be meeting with the advisory group chairperson.
Oh yeah.
Not council.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for that clarification. So it looks like those set of minutes with those minor amendments will be accepted as a true and accurate. I'm happy to move that from the well, I had seconder that we accept those minutes. Thank you, Tom. No further discussion, all in agreement that we receive those minutes as true and accurate, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Motion carried, thank you. So here again, a quick page turn to see any matters arising. I'll just give you all an update. On page 5, there was a question around the regional deals discussion. So we had Mayoral Forum last week, and it was decided at Mayoral Forum that we have a webinar for all elected members across Canterbury to inform all councillors at the same time of where things are at as far as the regional deal goes. And so rather than try and do it piecemeal, that we would use some advanced technology maybe. So there will be, I haven't got a date for you. There was a bit of tweaking in the proposal that came from the Mayoral Forum. But once that has been dealt to, so to speak, there'll be a date to come out. There'll be a one-off webinar for all elected members across Canterbury. So I just thought I'd give you that information so that you might find that in your inbox in the next wee while. Thank you. So page 7 and 8, matters arising. 9, 10, 11, 12. Thanks, Dave.
12, just like on Nestle's Road, was the price found out for the 300 metres is given to the, if I wanted 100% fully funded.
Can I ask Dan to give you a response to that? Thank you.
Yes, Madam Mayor, yes, we sharpened the price. We had some dialogue with those 3 property owners. And we've also put an alternative proposal in front of them for dust suppression, namely irrigating the road with some kind of automated system. And I've put them on to Councillor Barnes, and I don't know if they've phoned Councillor Barnes yet, because I know that up in Lyford they have a similar system going on. So I've got an outstanding meeting to have with them to explain a little bit more about how that works. So that's just something I've got to arrange. But yeah, I think in fairness, the price didn't change too much from what you'd seen before, which just made it wholly unaffordable for 3 properties. So that's currently where we're at. We're working with them to try and draw up a solution.
But that was through the chair, that was for the 300 metres, not the whole.
Right.
And just to comment on irrigating the water with ECM won't allow that, because I get rung up if water gets on the road, the proper water gets on the road, so that'll be a no-go.
No, I have no response to that.
No.
Madam Mayor.
Drop Lyford. Did you say, yeah, do you want to make a comment? Yeah, Robbie's got a question.
I did have a chat via a Zoom setup meeting with 3 of the residents on Maskell's Road, and just explained how it works out with us. And yeah, we do squirt water on the road, Dave. private road,
Your own territory, but.
yeah.
Okay, we might be able to leave that discussion there, just, and leave it, in Dan's hand to continue that discussion, I think, probably. Robbie, did you have a question, just to clarify?
Just on page 13 around the resolution. Exactly. Second part of the council decides to hold the allocated funds in advance in case of any emergency work or additional subsidised road funding becoming available. So I think it's important to note that that's across the renewal, that's not specific to Mass Road.
Yeah.
It's just like weeks.
Yeah. Yeah.
So which is not the case.
Yeah, no, that's great, and if Graham picks that up in the minutes, that will clarify that position, but I think you're absolutely being on there, thank you. Yeah, so I'm happy with that we just a limited clarification, I guess. Okay, so we're moving through page 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, matters arising, and 19 is 20. Nothing more there. Thank you. So we will move through to our second set of minutes, which is our council presentation meeting. And we had several presenters that day, but perhaps if we just look on page 21 and 22 for accuracy. 23, 24. 26, 27, 28, through to page 30. Any matters of accuracy that councillors have noted in that set of minutes? Right, that being the case, happy to move, Karen. Do I have a seconder that we accept those minutes? Thank you, Vince. We will receive those minutes of the 5th of August as a true and accurate recording of that meeting. All in agreement, please say aye. Those against? That's carried, thank you. So there again, we'll just step through this for matters arising. Anything on page, these pages, 2022, 23, 24, thank you. Vince?
Just of note that at the Wai, our main road railway bridge, there's a lot of work going on there at the moment, extracting gravel. And they've got gravel, they must be doing road work somewhere because there's a whole, they're big bulldozers there and diggers and everything. They've actually, looks like they're going to move the channel because at the moment it runs parallel with the railway bridge. So they've been cutting, so next flood in the river will cut straight down. So it's good to see some river management.
Good to see some work being done. Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was quite useful, that discussion, actually, you know, thinking about river rating and such like. So yeah, no, that's good. So we'll just work through matters arising 24, 25, 26. There again, I also appreciated the presentations from the community group. I thought that was useful as well. 27, 28, 29 and 30. Any other matters arising from that? Thanks, Robbie.
Just put it on whether there was any update on
Wisco, so it's been presented to the DIA. Have we received any of that back, or?
No confirmation, but it had been submitted on the week of the last council meeting after Kaikoura had adopted it the following day. So we were expecting to hear something. Yeah, we've had other meetings with the DIA afterwards just to make sure clarification required. So we're just sitting in advance waiting.
Everybody read that for the Christmas Sunday from Brian Cadogan. Interesting. Yeah. Okay. That's pretty good. I guess I'm just going to go back to page 26. Actually, sorry, Graham. It'll be at the police. Oh no, that was elsewhere. Sorry. Yeah. I mean, it's not reflective of these minutes, but if I can just say the community really stepped up in the open agenda of like it, that the community really supported the in presence the public meetings across the district around the restructure of the Canterbury policing. I'm really proud of the way our community has stood in solidarity around that. Just as an aside, actually at Rochelle's funeral on Friday, I had the opportunity to speak with Mark Mitchell. So I made myself known and had a conversation with Minister Mark Mitchell in regards. So Rochelle would want me to never let a chance go by. A song about that one. Yeah. Anyway, thank you. So I'll just leave that there. Thank you, Dave.
Yeah, Murray, page 26, I had Rob Stevens and again Dave approached me on different occasions just to thank the council for them coming along.
Yeah.
And I was well with it, and I just thought I'd just do the normal thing and remind you that the dairy industry in the next year is going to, in our little area, will have $72 million roughly be distributed back into the area via capital share distribution that's been announced recently. I don't know, we'll go back and a good friend of mine that crunches numbers a lot better than me. The additional income that's come from dairy above the base in the last 3 years equates to the complete government's 10 billion or whatever it was in savings that it cut. So it's a huge amount of money. So I just again that figure I'm going to be careful of, but it was just two figures that I was given. Just how lucky we are in the Hurricane.
Just a question I asked if I tear it
So hang on a minute, Vince. Have you finished, Dave? Yeah. Okay. Sorry, Vince.
Just that wasn't really answered about we're having a few problems with nitrates in parts of our district. And I think there's been quite a bit I see on social media and in the mainstream media about the problem. And it's a sort of a creeping thing. And I think we've just got to keep an eye on it a bit for our drinking water schemes and private. You know, it's all very well, people can't drink the water. You know, we've got to look hard at some of the stuff.
Yeah, that's great. Look, I think we'll leave that discussion there because I don't think we're in the position to weigh in, but I do accept both points of view that have been offered in that discussion, and you know, I think it's probably worthy, and maybe Graham, leave it with you to get Rob or the team back in 6 months' time or early into the triennium to provide an update. You know, I think there was value in hearing that information, but I do accept the points of view that have been made today. So thank you. Thanks very much. Councillors, that'll take us through to page 31, where we've got our first set of minutes from the 24th of June, which was the temporary road closure. We've got myself and Robbie and Vanessa sat on that temporary road closure subcommittee. Robbie and Vanessa, I'll look to you both. Is there any alterations to those minutes?
Not as far as I can see, Mari, no.
Awesome, thank you, Vanessa. Robbie's saying exactly the same. So maybe if one of you move, the other one second, that we receive those minutes as a true and accurate report. Thanks, Robbie. Thank you, Vanessa. You happy to second?
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you. So all in agreement that we receive those, please say aye. Thank you.
And sorry, Madam Mayor, the 29th of July. 24 on the notes and
Oh. Good stuff. Yeah, good spotting. Yeah, no, that's good. That's just the weird tune thing. Yeah, okay, that's right. We all know which page we're on. Thank you. So our second set of minutes is another temporary road closure subcommittee meeting on the 19th of August, and myself and Robbie and Vince sat on that subcommittee. So I'll look to you, Vince and Robbie, to provide me any corrections to those minutes. Happy? one of you like to move, I'd like to second that we receive those, happy to move, Vince, happy to second. Thank you, we received those minutes of true and accurate record, all in agreement, please say aye. Okay, that's carried. Just interestingly, from the first temporary road closure, I think that was that one, where it had to have a postponement date, we've talked with the officer, and so that's why on page 34 of that second set of subcommittee minutes, we as a committee have approved a postponement date, because on the previous set we actually had to reconvene the committee of Vanessa and Robbie, I think, wasn't it? Reconvene that committee to enable them to actually go on the postponement date. So we thought it was better value to actually have that as part of the recommendation, so that the committee actually didn't need to reconvene, or the subcommittee didn't need to reconvene. We give them approval to do that. All the rules were exactly the same, just the date needs to be changed. So I just thought you might want that for clarification. That's fine. So page 35 through to page 37, we have the forward work program. Dan, is there anything that needs to be added in that forward work program, or is that, I know we're sort of nearing the end of this triennium, but is that, are we all good as far as that goes? Or anything else? We've got a couple of meetings pulled out of our diaries just because we didn't have anything that needed to be in them, and Graham sent that out to councillors anyway, but well, that's all good. Nothing else want to populate there?
No, I don't think so, Madam Mayor.
Yeah. Great, thank you. And the diary, page 37. I don't think there's anything else. I've given you an update on the regional deals. So yeah, if there's no other questions, I'll ask for a mover and a seconder that we received that information. Thank you, Karen. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Robbie. Have a second. All in agreement that we received that information, please say aye. That's carried. Thank you. Fine, so we've got some decision items in front of us today, councillors. Our first one is on page 38. Jason, this is around the elected members' remuneration and expense policy. So I think it pretty much almost covers on the back of our last discussion, but if you can just take us through this, and we'll look at the recommendation on page 38.
And we did discuss this at the last meeting, and on the day of that meeting, the Remuneration Authority issued the amending determination. The key thing for Huranui is that on page 42, you can see that there's an amendment to the salaries paid to councillors as a result of the resignation of former councillor Gary Jackson. So that's been put in place. So as I mentioned last time, it was only we could only make it effective from the 1st of July through to the election. So that's been included in this determination, so that's good. The other component was that this one, the Remuneration Authority has amended the mileage allowance, and traditionally we've always paid the maximum allowed under the determination. So currently the existing mileage is $1.04 per kilometre up to 14,000 kilometres per annum. And then there's a scale for different types of vehicles over that 14,000 Ks. The amendment has split it out purely based on the inland revenue rates, and it is categorised determining on the basis of the vehicle. So for a petrol vehicle, the rate is $1.17, and then for a diesel vehicle, it's $1.26. For a hybrid vehicle, it's 86 cents per kilometre, and for an electric vehicle, it's $1.08 per kilometre. And then some adjustments for any mileage over 14,000 kilometres per annum. So I have just included the determinations there and also an amended or a proposed amendment to our elected members' expense and allowance policy, just to take into account those maximums allowed for determination. But certainly with the knowledge that post-election, we will certainly look at the policy again with the new council on board.
Okay, it's a curious question, I suppose, more than anything, Jason. Do councillors declare their type of vehicle to know which allocation they're going to? How does that actually work? You know, like if I've got a petrol vehicle and a diesel vehicle, and I claim that the petrol vehicle, but I actually using the diesel to pump, you know, like I mean, I know we're talking small, but it actually adds up. So how does that work? Do councillors?
I will need to amend the mileage claim to have somewhere where you're either bringing a diesel vehicle or a petrol vehicle, or an electric vehicle, or a hybrid. And I mentioned to Councillor Barnes earlier, I don't know why petrol hybrid is paid less than a significantly less than an electric vehicle. The IRD rules, but I will amend the form to try and make it as easy as possible. It is going to be painful for Debbie to put this through, but it's what we require.
Yeah, well, that's what I thought when I read it. You know, I mean, do you, is it a declaration almost that this is what I'm going to use and that with my claim, or how does that? I don't. Anyway,
it will just be important, councillors, to provide your claims on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Not pointing at anybody in
Okay. Look, it's an interesting discussion, though, isn't it? Really, you know, when there's such a variation. But is there any other questions from councillors? Thank you, Robbie. Question.
Just what's confused me, so there's no confusion. On page 42, 6, that's the rate until the end of the election, basically. That's not what carries on from the election.
No,
it's just the way it sort of comes. I thought somebody reading it would think, well, I was doing all right, but that's not the case.
No, it's purely up to the election. Post-election, we do have a new remuneration pool that is determined by the incoming council how that's allocated. So we'll go through that process and really
and that's always public facing information. You know, it'll all be on that first agenda, won't it? And there'll be no, you know, it is public information, and that should be, I guess. Happy with that? Thank you, Dave.
I've always had trouble even putting in any mileage claims from the fact is when I come to town and I go and do something for a farm or buy an ice cream, well,
That's me.
so the easy thing is don't put one up. So I don't put one up, but I've just asked Vince, like, you know, really put one up when he goes to get his fertilizer. So it's difficult, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I agree with you.
Because that's a farming type of thing, is
That's
you don't come to town just to do one thing. So easy as this, don't put it in. I'll make it easy for you.
Thanks, Dave.
But no, I mean, I think you're raising, you know, that there is often, I mean, that's the rural living, isn't it? You don't go to Christchurch for one thing, you bundle a whole lot of jobs up together. That's just economics. Yeah. But I appreciate your point. So I think Ross, and then we'll move on.
Yeah, look, thank you, Madam Chair. Just on this note, I know that as you say, if I'm doing other stuff, I'll bring another vehicle down and won't claim it. But if I didn't claim for just coming down here and back, I'd be going backwards, and big time. So it used to be that it was the same amount no matter what vehicle you drove, so it's easy. But you know, sometimes my wife wants the nice car, so I have to come down the ute, and it's like, well, the admin involved here is just like, well, what was somebody thinking when they changed
Well,
it?
that's what I was thinking as well, Ross. I'm like, hang on, lucky that there's enough to manage without.
Yeah,
Anyway, I guess
that's what it
we'll
is,
get
but
a form and someone will sort it.
It's never meant to be simple. I mean, we can opt to go for a flat rate, but it still needs to be under the minimum, so
Yeah.
that creates a little bit of.
Yeah.
So, we'll certainly make it work.
Okay, that's great. And Ross, I'm really, thank you for those comments, because it actually really is really important to acknowledge and for the community to understand the distances needs to be, it needs to embrace the reason you're doing this job or these roles, that actually, so there needs to be a balance somewhere. So I really appreciate that. Councillors, I'm not sure whether there's any further discussion and or questions to clarify. We do have a recommendation in front of us on page 38. Someone willing at this point, knowing full well that we'll come back from new council, that we approve the revised elected members' expense and allowance policy as per the TDC. Someone like to move that? Thank you, Karen. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Ross. No further questions. I'll put that all in agreement. Please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, that motion's carried, thank you. Thanks, Jason. Right. Okay, so that takes us through to page 48 in the Trust Community Foundation South Ward project. How are you, Vanessa? Good morning. It's good to see you here. Thank you for coming along to, this paper is in front of us. And in regard to some projects, I guess, so that's great. You're the expert in filling these out, so we're pretty lucky to have you. But perhaps if you just pull up some key points, maybe, and then we can Q&A and see where it gets us.
Yeah, absolutely. So good morning, everybody. The report is actually co-written by myself and Jo Sherwood, our youth team leader. Obviously, Jo's the expert in the youth space, and I have the funding portfolio, so we decided to tag team this. In terms of Jo's two projects, both of those are actually current and operating in the South Ward at the moment, and that came through from some previous HUIs and youth stakeholder survey, just highlighting that there is quite a need down here to engage with our youth, mainly due to the fact that they go to different high schools. Yes, some do go to Harinui College, but the majority of the ones who live here in Mangura either, who live here in Amberley are either Mangura High School students or New Life, or they go into Christchurch and their borders. So they're kind of missing out on the opportunities that our youth development officer takes to the 3 area schools each week. So hence we've got the Tuesday Youth Connect, and that's for the younger age bracket that are just about to go into high school. So they have that opportunity to connect with some older students and just be put at ease as to what high school is going to be like. And then we also have the community mentoring program that's just started. I'm not quite sure of exactly the numbers there. I think it's still quite small at the moment with like 2 or 3 matches, but seems to be going well. So that's currently funded through some other opportunities, but that funding opportunity is coming to an end. And then I've had Anne, the pool supervisor, have a bit of a chat about funding for different activities there. So with the pool being based in the South Ward, it just made sense to do a collaboration and have a more extensive application to the Trust Community Foundation. So in terms of the swimming pool, the opportunity there is actually to offset some of the instructor costs that is for the Water for Life program. So currently it's being supplied through YSwim, which I believe is based in Mangura. We've come over with their instructors here. So obviously there's travel costs and those sort of things as well. So that's then has to go back to the schools, which we know that our schools are, stretched as it is. So we've looked for opportunities, and so Ian is now actually going to offer that with their own staff, which is fantastic. But that does come with a bit of a cost. So we're just looking at ways to sort of offset that and make it more amenable for schools. And the schools are looking at the higher costs themselves because they can go to the Ministry of Education for that. The reason that it's just the South Ward is because of the Trust Community Foundation is actually a pub charity. So they have a bit of a catchment from 5 to sort of 7K radius. So the Trust Community Foundation is actually the Railway Hotel. So we're going to apply there and just see what happens. So that sort of is why this sort of is a South Ward project.
Okay, that answers some of my questions actually around the South Ward. I didn't quite understand that, but now I understand the catchment from the funding, so I appreciate that completely. But so does that, would it incorporate like, so Leafield, Broomfield and Waipara, or how does that work?
In terms of the schools for the Weiss one?
Yeah.
So I believe Anne has been in touch with Leafield, Amberley, Broomfield and Omahe. She has had confirmation, I believe, from 2 and still waiting for another 2 to say yes, we're looking for the program.
So should we have done Waipara as well when we went to Omahe, which is further away? How does that work?
I'm not quite sure why
Yeah,
she's
okay.
actually done it, to be honest. I mean, it's possible that they were bringing their students down to Amberley
Yeah,
already.
okay.
Yeah, Waipara might not have been.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't
No,
know
that's
the dynamics to that, sorry.
No, that's awesome. I mean, it looks to me like a really good thing to be going on in this community, to keep kids focused and in a team, I guess, you know. So is there any other questions from councillors? You've got relative comfort, thank you.
Good project. What happens with the rest of the district? Is there anything else happening for the rest of the community?
In terms of the youth or just in general, or?
Well, yeah, well, like the whole rest of the district, just talking about one ward here. Yeah.
Look, in any funding application or inquiry with the rest of the organisation, obviously work on those merits. So you'll recall that last year I came to you about Parnassus Hall. So it just depends on what inquiries are coming through. To be honest, I don't know what the plan is in terms of the youth in the rest of the district. Perhaps they felt that because there was this gap here in the South Ward, that's where the focus is just for the moment. I do know that there's some other projects occurring in the schools. Where that's sitting at the moment in terms of the funding, I'm not 100% sure. Joe's across all of that information.
Yeah, I think I can confidently say that Kimberley is in the schools, in the 3 area schools at least on a not weekly, very regular basis. And, you know, the projects are happening. I mean, if I use Cheviot as an example, last year, Dr. Marion McCaleb spoke around the workshop is Growing Great Brains. You know, this comes under the Together Hiranui. It was such a successful workshop. It was about 120 parents came to that. Cheviot were looking for it, so we actually got that happening in Cheviot on the 17th of September, I think. So yeah, I think the community team are aware and responsive to the rest of the community, but it probably, yeah, I can understand why it's nominated for here because of the ring fencing around the funding, because I was curious about that as well. Karen.
Yes, thanks very much, Lydia. I just wanted to clarify. I assume that this is basically the pub charity things, sort of poking machines or whatever, that's curry cups or whatever. So I know that we've lost some of our hotel establishments, you know, not operating around the district, but is this the only place within available? For instance, would Hanley Springs have something that would be available there if there was an initiative? For?
Yeah, thank you. Yes, there are a range of gaming machines through the district and pub charities. So here in Amberley we have 2. There's one down at Leafield. All of them are different. Cheviot has one, which is also the Trust Community Foundation. Trust Community Foundation is at Colquidden, and then there's 2 in Hammer Springs under the Mainland Foundation, and I think Greta Valley as well. So there's quite a spread. The trick or the downfall, I guess you could say, is if you're applying to a pub charity and you're successful, you cannot apply again for something else until that particular application's finished. So while there's two in Embley, we actually have an current application with the other, which is the Lion Foundation. So that's why we're choosing the Trust Community Foundation for this one. But yes, we are privileged that we have quite a, I guess, opportunity for choice throughout the district for different projects. Yeah.
Just to follow up the point of you said, so the skill is, well, one of the skills you're bringing is your knowledge of which pub charities were linked to which foundations and therefore where funding was successful. But I just always have a slight ethical dilemma with the whole thing really, because we're needing people to lose money in our community in order to benefit other people. So I mean, this is good and I support it, but I just have a real dilemma with the whole thing.
Yeah, thanks Karen for noting that. I mean, I guess that's moral, ethical conflict that we have internally on really. But look, I think, you know, in essence, the projects that you identified, the reason and the desirable outcome for the young people in the southern part of our district needs to be admired. You know, it's found an opportunity and we're trying to like it, I suppose, you know. So if there's Robbie, question?
I just want to pick up, you mentioned around preparing the young ones for the hospital. Will that sort of dovetail or expand on the seed program that started a little bit of that sort of stuff? Will it be able to sort of expand on that?
The age bracket's slightly different. So this is, I believe the Connectors year 7 and 8 or 8 and 9, somewhere in there. So just that tail end of primary school.
7 and 8.
Yeah. Ready to head into high school, where the seed program is more for about the 16-ish age bracket and above, who school's not a great fit for them, but they're not ready for any other type of education, so they're not quite sure what life is going to be like for them. So that's where that sort of fits in.
Great. Okay. We've teased out a few questions. I hope there's nothing from Elaine or Vanessa online. But is there any other questions around the room? Are you of the mind to support the recommendation on page 48? Thank you. Have we a second? Robbie? Yep. Okay, so we're going to move in a second for the officer recommendation on page 48. So with that, I'll put that motion all in agreement. Please say aye. Against? That motion's carried. Thanks, Vanessa. Thank you for the explanation. That's been very helpful. And the work you do. It's awesome. Rightio, councillors. We've got Nicola here. So this, as you will have read it, is looking at appointing resource management commissioners for some hearings that are coming up, and a important part of this whole legal process, really, Nicola, aren't they? So perhaps if you just talk us through this, and then we'll consider the recommendation on page 51.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So yes, the purpose of my report today is for the council to appoint independent accredited commissioners for 2 resource management processes currently lodged with council. So the first is a private plan change, which was lodged by Everlasting Development Limited. This is a plan change which seeks to rezone a 4-hectare section at 115 Amberley Beach Road from rural to residential for future residential development. This application was publicly notified and received 10 submissions and no further submissions. Officer's recommendation is the appointment of Andrew Willis as Commissioner. Mr. Willis is appropriately qualified to fill this role and additionally is identified as an accredited Commissioner in the Council's Sub-Delegations Manual. Mr. Willis would hold a hearing as necessary and make a recommendation to Council on whether the plan change should be accepted or not. The final decision on the plan change, whether to adopt it, would be made by Council. The second is a resource consent lodged by Far North Solar Farm Limited. This resource consent is to install and operate a solar farm at 380 Waikaria Flat Road. This application was publicly notified and 158 submissions were received. I know this is a slight correction from the report. The office recommendation is the appointment of Dean Crystal and Shannon Bray as commissioners to hear and decide on this resource consent. Both proposed appointments hold the appropriate accreditation to sit on an RMA hearings panel. Mr. Crystal is also identified as an accredited commissioner in the council sub-delegations manual, and he has sat on a number of recent hearings for council. Mr. Bray is an experienced landscape architect. Officers consider his skills and experience would be useful to have on this hearings panel, as landscape and visual effects are a key concern in relation to this application. Officers also consider the appointment of 2 commissioners to sit on a hearing panel is appropriate for this consent, given the number of submissions received and the level of public interest in this application. Officers did not consider the appointment of an elected member, as currently there are no councillors who are accredited to sit on a hearing panel, and as well the timing is a little bit slight conflicts with the local body elections. I'm happy to answer any questions or make clarifications.
That's great. Thank you, Nicola. If you just clarify for me the costs of the hearings are all by the applicant.
Yes, they are.
So this is a sort of a separate process to any costs that could be endured by a council.
That's correct.
Thank you. Ross.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a question regarding the first private plan change for everlasting developments. Out of the 10 submissions, do we know how many were for or against that?
Oh, that's a good question.
Because you mentioned it on the other one.
Yes.
Out of curiosity.
Yeah, through the mayor, apologies, I haven't done my homework on that one, but I can find out for you.
Yeah, I mean, it's just out of interest whether the
Yes, that's a
people
good
do
question.
object to that or whether they're for it.
I think there was, from memory, there was a mixture. I won't do the counting.
Okay, so maybe if you're able to provide us with that
Yes, I'll do that.
information,
Yeah.
even during this meeting, would be quite helpful. Is that a curiosity, I guess, is what you're thinking? Yeah, thank you. Any other questions in regard to the recommendations in front of us? If that being the case, so we'll get that information from Nicola around how many for the rezoning for Amberley Beach Road, but other than that, we are looking at the recommendation as page 51 of your report. Are you happy to move, Karen? That's fine, thank you. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Tom. If there's no further discussion, I'll put that motion. All in agreement to that, please say aye.
Aye.
It's carried, thank you. That'd be great. Thanks, Nicola. Just to get that bit of curiosity more than anything, that would be really helpful. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, just a curiosity question. These consents and things, from the time that you've got something to look at till the time it's processed through, we know roughly what they are. I'm thinking of probably down the road if we were to go through this process. Is it 6 months or a year, or I suppose they vary?
Through the year, yes, it is variable on the complexity of these. So the Resource Management Act does set down broad timeframes for sort of when things should happen, but operating within those timeframes, it's definitely a matter of complexity. So I think I mentioned in the report for private plan changes, a decision needs to be made within 2 years of publicly notifying the application. So this was publicly notified in May and for further submissions in June, and so we've been hoping to wrap that up sort of in the next couple of months. But yeah, if there was more submissions or was a bit more context, that might take a bit longer into that 2-year process.
It's either way, it's not a fast process. It is what it is.
And at the end of once the hearing has been held and a decision is made, that will come back to this council to kind of adopt, I guess, that decision. Can you just give us that wrap up as well?
Yeah, so in terms of a private plan change, the commission is only making a recommendation to council. They don't make the final decision, that's made by council. But on the resource consent, that decision will be made by the commissioners. So if you think back to the fly ride, that decision was made by the commissioners.
So there will be a little part to play from a council perspective. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Thanks, Nicola. That was very good.
Thank you.
I think that we should adjourn now. And we'll come back to our final decision after we've had our celebration with our community members. So will we keep the live stream on for Vanessa and Pauline?
So that they can keep the Zoom on. Maria is going to check with the recipients whether they want the live stream.
Oh, okay.
But the Zoom will stay.
Right, okay. But yep, good as gold. Okay, so councillors, I think we'll adjourn now and be back around 10:45 or 11 o'clock. Yeah, a bit later for morning tea. But I think we're ticking through this agenda pretty well, thank you. So yeah, we'll have an extended morning tea given the Community Service Award recipients. I'll join us for morning tea in the council lounge. Okay, we'll adjourn now. See you shortly. Thank you.
So you don't need these seats. with the light pouring through the eye. It looked amazing, really, the different lights and the shadows.
Rightio. Welcome everybody, but a special welcome to our guests here today. We missed you both, Jax and Boots, representatives of course, on our Community Service Awards evening, which is a really important part of our district to celebrate people that step up and do significant work. And many of our volunteers, many of our community service awards this year were volunteers on the fire brigades, or just people that step into positions in a volunteer capacity. And it's really important because it kind of is the glue that sticks our community together. But Jax, you're here because of an environmental award where I've just been speaking with you now. You moved into the district about 10 years ago, saw an opportunity, saw a need, and stepped into that place to protect from an environmental perspective. So I really want to acknowledge that as well, because we need champions, and for you to do that is incredibly rewarding, but actually as a district we acknowledge that work as well. So I'll just read, Jax, your application for the Main Power Whanganui Environmental Grant. Well, it's a Tracy offer, it's not work for you, so that's okay. It's not like school cert English or anything like that. But if you want to join me, that'd be great. So Jax is planning to plant above the south bank of the Waikato River next to the car park for the popular Fossil Walk, as well as providing an area that visitors can enjoy while walking the river area. It will also re-establish the natural occurring native area and provide homes for native birds, lizards and geckos, as well as food for the bees in the area. The grant will be used to purchase plants and materials, including guards and weed mats. So, Jax, it's, as I said, it's great that you've stepped into this place. I don't think it's a check in there, but or something. But actually, as a district, we really love it when we meet champions like yourself, but we also love to see how your project progresses in a year or whatever time, so councillors sitting around this table really appreciate to get that full loop of the beginning of the journey, but actually where the journey has taken us. So I'll leave that with you, and look forward to what you've been doing and what you continue to do for the environmental aspect of the district. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, thanks, Jax. So our next award is a really special award. It was, this is only the second year that we've introduced this award to our district, and it's a special Merrill Award for business. And it is presented to recognise the significant business contribution to the Whanganui district. So with that, I couldn't think of anybody better than Art Burks. So I don't know whether Craig or the whole team, but you better come up here, guys. Don't be shy. We need to talk later. Yeah, I don't get a pie unless you come up here. Don't get smoked. Yeah, we'll invite you to morning tea now if you're standing up here, guys. But it's an absolute privilege to present this Merrill Award. Arthur Burks, for many of you will know, but has been the cornerstone of Amberley community in North Canterbury since its establishment in 1935. With a rich history and a diverse range of products and services, the business has grown to include a service branch in Waikari. Yeah, that's right. And proudly operates the local Hammer Hardware store. The hardware division has been based at its current location for over 35 years, serving as a trusted provider to the region. Arthur Burks is deeply embedded in the fabric of North Canterbury, known for its professional, friendly and welcoming atmosphere that reflects the traditional country values. The company's legacy is closely tied to the development of Amberley and its surrounding areas, having contributed to the local economy for decades. This commitment is mirrored in the dedication of its staff, some of whom have been with the business for over 45 years, demonstrating exceptional loyalty and service. Gosh, that's none of you guys, surely. You've all got-
We got Lindsay.
Yeah, I know, that's pretty, oh my gosh, 48 years. Lindsay, that's awesome. Well done. Yeah, started when you were 2. Yeah. Arthur Burks is also a strong supporter of the local community, regularly assisting schools, clubs and various groups through sponsorships and fundraising efforts. Their involvement extends to initiatives like the Mayor's Task Force for Jobs, run by the Hiranui District Council, where they have successfully helped 2 young people transition into full-time employment. One beginning a mechanical apprenticeship in February 2024, and another recently joining the parts sales team. With the inception of the Hiranui Youth Program in 2008, Arthur Burks also kindly sponsored a vehicle. So it's with that commitment to our district that we proudly recognise Arthur Burks Limited in this recognition of continued advocacy, sponsorship and support that you have given as a business to the people of the Hiranui district. So thanks, Craig. That's awesome. It's pretty special. Yeah. John certificate. Like that, your boy needs a certificate. Yeah. Thank you. Awesome. Thank you.
Mary too involved with the appeal out to 70 years as well. Without community, we don't patch as well, so it's not going to be something common.
Well done. Thank you. Yes, it's a special award to be recognised by your peers, but actually by your community. But I think Arthur is well deserving. So thank you. And there's the words. I don't want to keep the words. Anyway, thank you. Thank you. So that concludes our short ceremony for today, but every good ceremony actually requires a cup of tea. So we welcome you all to join with us for a morning tea, and then we've got to get back and do some business, but we'll have about half an hour, maybe 20 minutes, maybe 22. Yeah. pretty special, and for the Merrill Award for artwork. So unfortunately, of course, they weren't able to be with us on the night of the community celebration, but it's nice, despite that we're able to acknowledge the good work that individuals, but actually collectively businesses are doing in our district. So, councillors, we'll just draw your attention. We're back to our decision item, which is 5.4. Welcome back, Vanessa. It's good to see you. And we've got the plan change at 185 Ashworth Road. This is part, I guess, of some next steps. But Dan, I know this isn't actually your paper and you're presenting on behalf of Judith today, but so perhaps if there's some points that you would like to draw our attention to, and then we'll do, if there's any questions, and then we'll look at the recommendation as we see it, or otherwise I'm 55. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, so this is Hamish's paper that he asked Graham to write, that he reviewed. They've asked Judith to present. She can't be here, so it's fallen to me. So here we go again. So this is something that you are extremely familiar with, so I don't need to go into any great detail. For 185 Ashworth Road, the next step in this process of subdivision is to carry out a plan change, and in order to bring in the respective expertise to help us get over that line, there is a request for an additional $250,000 to get that work done. Now that will be capitalised and loaded against the project. And Jason, just before he left, just explained to me that in principle the LGFA have approved the funding, and I think it's coming from it can give you the detail, but it's about a sustainability green type fund that they are looking to give that money out from. So that's good news. So yes, Madam Mayor, that's as simple as it is really. We're looking for the council to approve the spend of $250,000 to engage the necessary expertise to inform and lodge the application for the plan change.
That's great, thank you. That's great. Okay, we've got a question here, and I'll start with you, Vanessa.
Thank you. Through the chair, Dan, just a matter of clarification. I know that the recommendation reads very clearly that council are seeking the approval of the spend of $250,000 to inform and lodge the application, but it says at the top that the purpose of this report is to seek approval for unbudgeted expenditure to progress the plan change to rezone the council, Can I just clarify that what we are doing today is we are looking to approve the spend of $250,000 only, not unbudgeted expenditure?
Madam Mayor, the $250,000 is not in the current annual plan, therefore it will be unbudgeted expenditure.
Okay, got you.
Yeah,
Thank
so,
you.
Yeah, I think what you're raising, Vanessa, is a good question. So it's been untagged and framed in a budget prediction, and that's what you're talking. And I think that's what Vanessa is clarifying.
Yep.
Yeah, cool. But can I just expand on that so there is a potential, what do you call it, a green fund? A fund that we are looking to access to actually that would offset this cost.
To borrow against, yes.
Yeah, okay. Right, okay, I think I just need to get to some questions, some hands going up. So I'm going to start with you, Ross, and then I'll go to Dave and then Robbie, okay? Thanks, Ross.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Look, just reading this, potentially 70,000 might not be needed in full. That's how I read that. That's, I just want clarification on this.
Happy with that?
Yeah.
Thank you, Dave, and then Robbie.
Clarification, what class of land is this? And it is highly productive, but class 1, 2, 3, because there is some changes happening at national level to it, isn't it? I just can't remember what it knocks out at.
Well, Madam Mayor, my understanding is that the highly productive land status won't change as a result of the RMA changes that are going on, but as you know, I'm no expert in this field.
I think what you're saying is correct, though. There is some changes pending, and there, it is under the highly productive land classification in that zoning. Yeah, thank you. Robbie, and then I'll go to you, Vince.
Yeah, I just know there's no sort of a map or an area tag. Will that come out of this work, I presume, at a later date? Will be honed down to exactly which would be needed to change.
Madam Mayor, yeah, the plan change application will be explicit on what's required and where. Maybe one other thing I will just mention about the money in normal fashion. If something changes legally or the money isn't needed to be spent, the money won't be spent.
What we would expect, but I think, Robbie, what you're talking about is that this would be, the funding formula that we're seeking here is on the 20 hectare proposed subdivision plot, not across the whole purchase land. That's correct?
I can confirm that.
I'm pretty sure that's correct. Okay, so yeah, I'm going to go to Vince and then I'll come to you, Dave.
I think, Dave, it's Wakanui soil type and the old land type soil type, which is very high productive. The question I've got, where's the funding come from? And it's going to be capitalised with the sale. If we have a problem and we don't get our consent, have we got another plan for how we pay for it with, you know, if things, we don't get the consent? How do we manage that? Because, you know, I just look at risk and we've got, as a council, we've got to look at that too.
Would that not come back, because that would be a new proposition if for some reason there wasn't an achievement to the subdivision process through this request for funding, that I would have thought that would have been a paper that would come back to council, and council would determine what we'll do with the entire site if we weren't able to achieve it. So I think that's a decision that would be indicative on what may happen here, I would have thought.
I'm talking actually that you've done all this, you've spent your 250, it goes to get a consent and it doesn't. How do we manage that? Because then it becomes another debt on our, and I look at the fly line and what actually is there enough money, because look what it blew out to in Hamner with, because it only takes one go to the Environment Court and it just goes, 250 goes nowhere. You know, so, you know, is that enough money to be upfront, you know, to be realistic?
Well, Madam Mayor, my response to that, I guess, is we've gone and consulted with the experts. Now we've just previously approved a plan change, bringing in a commissioner. So we've got some reasonably good expertise around that area and the people that we rely on to give us advice. You would expect them to be pretty much on the money in terms of this. This isn't anything extraordinary that we're doing. So I'm guessing that yeah, they would have a good handle on and good experience with this sort of work.
And just another question, how long do you think the timeline of doing all this would be? Is it a year, 2 years, or how long does it take to?
As what Nicola was mentioning earlier, how long's a piece of string in some respects, but it just depends on the sort of information that the hearing panel asks for. And again, now, based on what we know at the moment, we're seeking the relevant expertise to help get this over the line for us.
Dave, you've got a question?
Just a point you made, the plan change is only on the 20 hectares that were bought of the whole thing. I find that a bit concerning, because if you're going to go through this whole damn process, why not do the whole thing? Because then we can disperse of what we don't need. Otherwise, if we leave it as what it is, you know, you're not maximising, you know, it's what we were sold it on, that we can sell it and maximise on the rest of the block. So clarification, I'd be surprised if it's only the 20 hectares, or is it the whole block we're going the plan change?
I think it's just Is it explicit in there?
No, Madam
So
Mayor.
why would we only be doing it on 20
Yeah.
What it
hectares?
talks about is that the plan change to rezone the council land at 185 Ashworth Road for the proactive relocation project.
Mm.
So it's not clear to me, it feels like in one piece it's saying a whole piece of land, but in another piece it's saying about a specific project. Might just be 20.
I feel we need to be certain on that.
Yeah.
Because that, to me, if you went to try to subdivide that whole piece of land, that's a huge undertaking, and I could see you running into problems with consenting.
I don't have any knowledge other than what's written in the paper, but I'm have relative confidence that we are just talking about the 20 hectares, but it's not explicit in this paper. I take that. And I remember when we were having discussions and making a decision, it was a comment from Judith, which I held, I weighted that as significant, that the, and this is, I'm just talking about the 20 hectares at this stage, that the highly productive land and the reason for the subdivision, without wanting to quote Judith specifically, but it was, there was a good waiting for a case for change to actually enact that subdivision because of the reason behind why we're doing it, you know, to positively relocate people that potentially in 50 years or 100 years time may have a village or their place of belonging has been impacted severely. So that always sat, it's a source of comfort to me, but it's not explicit in this report whether it's a 20 hectares, but I suggesting that it is. Karen.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I agree. I think a number of us went for a drive. We will get the opportunity to, with Hamish, to look at the area that he intended for that, and it had the lovely aspect out over to the beach. But obviously we've got part of what we're getting the expertise on here is geotechnical stuff, for instance. So it's on the edge of an escarpment, or I'm sorry, geographically my terms are probably wrong,
Yeah,
but
on the terrace.
you know, there could be an issue with that, and I would like to see some better wording in here that means that if we get partway down the track and it's like actually that 20 hectares right there actually isn't going to work, we need to bring it back or shift it over here. We need to have the ability to do that. You know, I don't, like others have said, I don't want us to have the costs run away and we've gone down a path and we go, we have to just pivot a bit here and shift our eyes a bit or whatever. So I'm not sure if the wording here is going to give us that level of flexibility at the same time as controlling the costs and therefore the risk of the whole thing. You know? So I'm not that comfortable with how it sits at the moment.
Okay. So do you have any final comments to help support the if it's written, or some suggestions maybe if it's was seeking further information to progress this paper?
Madam Mayor, in order to move to the next steps, we need to get moving with the assessments that this report talks about. Now, I'm relying on my my colleagues' expertise in this area because I know that certainly Hamish, Graham, and Judith have all poured all over it. So there's a great deal of thought gone into this. Often, when we do bring papers to council looking for additional funding, as Councillor Armstrong points out, sometimes there are many or multiple variables that may happen if something else occurs, but we don't always talk about those. We talk about the 80-20 rule and say if the majority of the times this is the end result, so we don't always seek the full ambit of everything that could go wrong. So appreciate that, like I say, my colleagues have been over this, they understand exactly what it is that they're trying to achieve. And knowingly that it's the 20 hectares of land that specifically allows us to deliver on that proactive relocation project. And that's what we're trying to enable. So even if we are looking right across the entire 90-hectare site to change the highly productive land status, this is still focused on doing all the geotechnical assessment, traffic planning, the planning and everything else for specifically the 20 hectares.
Okay, I've still got some questions coming. I think I'll go to Ross and Tom and Dave and then Robbie. So we'll sweep down the road. Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Look, I read the officer recommendation and it says to engage the necessary expertise to inform and knowledge. So Karen, I'm comfortable with there'll be experts that will say, hey, look, this 20 hectares needs to be pulled back a bit from the edge, like you say. There'll be experts there that are better than my judgment on that. So I'm comfortable with that statement. I just want to clarify, if the rest of it was split into 4 hectare blocks, does that need a plan change? Or is that still highly productive land that could be used as highly productive land as a 4 hectare block?
No, my understanding, no. It can't be 4 hectare blocks because that's a similar conversation that we've had about Stanton Road.
Because it's a rural.
Yeah,
it's designated as rural in the district plan. I would have thought.
Okay.
Yeah. That's correct. Are you comfortable with that, Tom?
Yeah, following on from what Dave said, I think that as a council, we've got that land there, and I think to maximise our potential return, I think it would be advisable to go for change of plan for the whole site, because the other 50 hectares or parts of it could certainly mitigate the costs of the whole plan, but also could provide a valuable revenue stream to our council. So I would be in favour of hopefully designating the whole area, or getting the whole area changed so that it could be residential to maximise our potential return.
A comment, I guess, rather than a question. Thank you, Dave, and then Robin. I'll come back to you. Thanks.
So the question is, to me, we are uncertain if it's a 20 hectares or the whole block. So while it's only uncertain about that, and for the reasons, I need more of a discussion or as to why or whatever, so we can put it into 20 hectare, 4 hectare blocks or whatever to maximise our return. So more of a. So the question is I don't want to vote for this and then find out that I'm tied to 20 hectares alone without the rest of the issue being sorted. So, yeah.
So that's a statement, another question. Yep. Thank you, Robin.
Yeah, I asked earlier about the designation of the area. I suspect it's not an accident, but it's not there. I take it similar from us, where we're basically saying we need 250 grand to get the experts to look at the options to see, is it going to be 15 hectares, is it going to be 25, is it going to, that comes down the track. It does say here to lodge the application, but I wonder whether there will always be a step in between where the experts will come up and we'll prep something and then we'll do a final. Yep, that's all good. Go with it. Go with that. Julie's comments here, I was thinking about what she was saying. I took it that the chances of changing the whole farm were pretty slim. The chances of changing part of it, because we've got a very good reason to do so, gave it a better chance, as opposed to just the developer saying, well, I'd like to build a new Wollaston there or something. You probably wouldn't get that over the line. So I'm comfortable where it's at. To me, it's the same. We need to spend some money, get the experts and hone down what might go ahead. So I'm okay with where it's at.
Thanks, Robin. Comfortable with that as well. Vince?
I think that it's written a bit loose, and we're actually going against council policy, because within our councils, whatever we've written, we've got in our mission is protect productive land. I take that right, isn't it? And here, we bought it because we needed enough to relocate the people. We didn't need it to build another town. And I think we'll struggle to actually, even we're going against our own policy. Nara, you sat on in your plan, the district plan, and you went through it. And I think it goes against, if we decide to chop the whole show up, it's against what we're here about. So, you know, to me, I'd struggle with that. I think we need to get it down to what actually, because we didn't buy it on the promise of subdividing it into a whole lot of, I think the reason we bought it was to shift those people from Amberley Beach, give them some sections, and then we didn't even talk about land banking, we were going to sell the remainder. So now we're sitting and you start to talk about building another town. You know, are we property developers and go against our own district plan or what? You know, it just still worries me, but we need to be more precise in what we're saying here. Just to make it simpler to get the plan change, because it'll be quite a difficult plan change to go and change that amount of highly productive land.
So I take from your comment, you're suggesting that, and I agree, that actually it's the 20 hectares that we're talking about here, not the whole purchase. And if I could just draw your attention to the purpose, and I think it's on the back of Ross and Robbie's comments, that the purpose of the report said council approval unbudgeted expenditure progress of district plan change to rezone the council land at 185 Ashworth for the proactive relocation project. So the project was about the 20 hectares to be proactive to support the members of our beach community that are, you know, in this position. And if we go on to the background, the 23 Amberley Beach managed retreat and land bank proposal completed, blah, blah, a plan change to rezone rural land to residential if required. So whilst it's not specific in here, I have confidence that what we are talking about here to enable the $250,000 to progress this process is ring fenced, and I'd be happy to actually include it in the officer recommendation to that we approve the spend to engage the necessary expertise to inform an application for the 20 hectares for a plan change for the 185. And I think that gives certainty to the concerns that have been raised by councillors, that we're not talking about the whole land parcel purchase, we're talking about 20 hectares of land. And I'm pretty sure that's what this paper's about.
Madam Mayor, I'd probably be inclined to agree. If it were the whole property, so what's being asked for is 250,000, and on the assumption that it is for the 20 hectares, if it is for the whole piece of property, then it's going to be more than that 250,000. So there may well need to be another paper coming back, so seeking more money than 250,000. If the 250 is for the entire property, then you get the whole piece of work done for 250,000. So either way, the money that's being requested will get the work done, because that's what it's being requested for. Whatever that is to get the expertise in to do the respective information gathering for the plan change.
So yeah, I mean, I just come back to that. The proactive relocation project was entirely around 20 hectares to reposition 109 current rateable units at the beach to the terrace, and a balance that would help fund that project. It wasn't about the whole land purchase. So I've got high level of confidence that it is about the proactive relocation project, and we need to bring our minds to that. Vanessa?
Thank you. Through the chair, look, I really just to echo what you've just said, Madam Mayor, it's very clear to me that we are talking specifically about that allocation of land for the relocation project, and that, you know, the other conversation about what we're going to do with the rest of the land is another conversation for another day. I wouldn't even go so further as not saying or not needing to actually add the size of the land in the recommendation, but I'm happy to I'm not sure whether you moved it, Mari, or not.
No, I
but
haven't, but I'm happy to take your guidance, so you carry on, I'll happily support that.
I'm happy to actually move the recommendation as written. But if you, I will actually, I'll make that recommendation. I'll move it now. Thank you.
Okay, and I guess if I can, just to be clear for the minutes, maybe, and for the collective thoughts around the table, you base that on the fact that we are specifically talking about the proactive relocation in relation to the coastal adaptation plan.
Correct.
That's on the back of it. Yeah. Okay. Just wanted to clarify that, because that probably draws our focus to the reason and the desirable outcome. So thank you. So is there any other questions? Just to clarify, we've had a good discussion around that. We have got a recommendation as written on page 55 in your report. Do I have a seconder for that? You happy to second, Ross? Okay. Anybody want to debate that one way or the other before we put that resolution?
Just a question with the relocation project. Should it be for that number of sections? Because that's what we're doing. We bought this land to shift those people from the beach area to that area. This is very loose how it's written. Because are you going to put other people there? Are you going to have?
I think if we go down to page 56, so the plan, so we're getting some experts to come in and see how the traffic's going to be managed, the economic assessment, the landscape. So that's Karen's point. Is it the geotech? Is it, are we in a safe zone? Blah blah blah. So I think we are speaking about that land parcel, and the experts will guide us and provide us guidance on how and what to do next.
Madam Mayor, just on page 57 in the consideration of local government wellbeing, you'll see that it does refer to the $18 million investment in the region and the potential building of 250 properties. So that does imply that it is 20 hectares. And that's all the costed economics that you've considered, and which is why basis of which you make a purchase.
So Vince, that's your question, I think. Did you have a question, Tom?
Yeah.
I'll put this motion shortly, so.
Yeah, which motion are we actually voting upon? Are we voting on your amended version?
No, I didn't.
As written?
No, I didn't put that motion. I just put a think tank in. Vanessa has moved and Ross has seconded the wording as written on page 55. Are you happy, Tom?
Oh, yes, sorry.
Yeah, sorry, I was waiting. Yeah.
Yeah, no.
It is 20 hectares. Okay. So I'll come to you, Dave. So Judith has just confirmed we are just talking about 20 hectares. And we are, can I say, we are speaking about 20 hectares as the parcel of land in the wider suite that we purchased. Dave, a final comment, and I'm going to put this motion.
Well, Judith's answered the question. I thought it was loose enough, if it wasn't the motion that was, if it wasn't the 20 hectares, it's loose enough to do the whole block. I can see us coming back again to do this again in the future. So.
Okay. So we're
spending money.
Yeah. So we've all got confidence that we're speaking about the ring fence, 20 hectares. We understand the reason of why, and I think back to Vince's point around the district plan and highly productive land, I think we understand what we're seeking to do with this additional, or this funding, to get the experts to come in and advise us, to go back to Karen's point as well. So if there's no further questions of clarity or around this paper, I'm going to put the motion, and I'm not going to read it, it's in front of you on page 55. All in agreement to that, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against? Dave's against. So do you want to name against that one? Thank you. That motion is carried. Thanks very much. Thanks, Dan.
Madam Mayor, I'll just apologise for my vagueness, I suppose.
No, that's fine.
Yeah, Judith has taken ill, so I just haven't had a chance to get briefed on it to the fullest that I would like to have been. So Apologies.
No, look, I think we worked through that, and I understand that, and so I appreciate you giving us the guidance that you did. Thank you. Radio councillors, we're ticking along pretty well, really. We've got, that's the end of our decision items. We have no discussion items in front of us. And so we are now just working through the information items. There's 4 of those in front of us today. Graham, this is your local government official information and meeting act requests. And you've got some of them in front of us. If there's anything you want to tell us about that?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The number 3 was completed last Friday. So we had asked for an extension for that because of just staff workload for people who had to provide the information. It's quite a big one. The number 4, that was due on the 19th of August, so that one is done. So it's just the final. Those other 2 they're just all in progress. So I think that's probably all I need to say. So happy to take any questions.
Yeah, great. That's fine. Thank you. We've got a question. Thanks, Vanessa.
Through the chair, Graham, number 2, is it information requested regarding any particular construction project or just the process of construction projects themselves?
Through you, Madam Mayor, it was quite a big request about whole range of construction projects. So I think it was from a commercial operator who was looking for a range of construction type information. But to provide everything that would have been a massive request. So we provided, I think, only a couple of examples, and I think they were happy with the information they got. So I think it was more about our processes rather than anything.
Okay, thank you.
And I was just reflecting when you were talking, Graham, you know, we've only, was it in this training or the last one that we actually opened, you know, reported monthly on the Laguna request, because often it was just done by staff, but this is another way that we've put in place the transparency to our community. So I don't know whether it's this training or the last one.
I think it might start at the end of the last training. But
Yeah, I just think it's worth noting that it's another way to, you know, improve the transparency with our community. So yeah, I mean, I know you need that, but that's pretty cool. So is there any other questions? Someone happy to move that we receive that information? Thanks, Vince. Thanks, Tom. Mover and a seconder, all in agreement to that, please say aye. Aye. Thank you. That motion passed. Thanks, David. Our next is the monthly performance report, and Dan's going to speak with this. We're not unfamiliar with the style of this report, are we, Dan? We see it every month, so perhaps if you just want to give us a bit of an update on where things are at there.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm sure everybody's read it with a great deal of enthusiasm, probably second only to the financial reports. But you will have seen that there are a whole bunch of empty information in there, and this is for exactly the same reason what Jason was talking about with the financial reports. In our migration onto the new system, we just haven't got our reports set up yet that give us these metrics. But where we do have the metrics, which is generally around the vacant notices, infringements, etc., you can see we have populated the information in there. There is only an area where it's red, and that's on our recycling of waste ratio. And this is due to just not seeing the sort of paper and card volumes that we have done in the past. Just to give you a little bit more of an insight. So in terms of the metric there of greater than 31%, the way that we came up with that number is we looked historically at the trend. So when we set the LTP this time round, we looked at the trend of how the recycling was going, and that was in a linear fashion. We were heading towards that number. So the fact that we're not getting there is probably our only stretch target in the whole of these performance reports. So if you remember all the way through last year, we were struggling to make that number as well. So that's the reason for that one. The rest, we do have reports, individual reports, which allow the team to monitor their performance. So we are not flying blind with this new system. We can see what's going on. We just can't report on the metrics that are
Ross, I think you've got a question.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Look, it's just if you, the box to the left of that, where less than 5% part contamination, we're down to 0.3, so we might not be having a recycling volume, but what we do recycle is well under the, it's spot on. In fact, there's not much contamination in it, or a very low contamination rate. I think that makes up for it.
Cool. Okay, is there any other questions? With that, someone happy to move that we receive the information? Thank you, Ross. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Vince. All in agreement, please say aye. Great, that's carried. Thank you. So now we've got a couple of committee members updates. The Youth Council update. I'll look to Dave and Robbie to speak to this paper, please. Or maybe I'll put on Dave because you're going to do the next one. Thanks, Dave.
Yeah, the Youth Council had Rima and say her name, Elgin spoke on how youth could get involved in biodiversity and climate change. Joe spoke on wider youth initiatives, specifically on SEED and NTFJ funding. What else was there? The formals were coming up, and no doubt they'll happen. Yeah, and that's pretty straightforward reading ahead.
Right, thanks, Dave. That's excellent. Yes, I went to the year 7 and 8 formal. Kids had young people had a great time. Music was quite loud from my perspective, but it was wonderful. But it's also really neat to acknowledge the youth councillors. You know, Community Service Awards night, they were all there meeting and greeting. You know, and that's pretty cool when they give their time voluntarily. I just think it's a measure of the success of the program, and thank you. Thanks, Dave. Are you happy to move that report? Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Thanks, Tom. All in agreement, we received that. Please say aye. Aye. Okay, that's carried. Thanks. And Robbie, operations, the last committee meeting. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm taking this read and just quickly skip through. Couple of things that sort of where was the water loss. We had a look at that, and while our water losses are actually very low, but still a number that you think, where's it going? But it was clarified that we might not necessarily be losing it. So it's not necessarily that people have got illegal connections or whatever. It's a wee bit deceiving. And the road signs, speeding signs around the town, Charlie's done a deal with Kotani, and some signs in some towns we don't look after, some signs in other towns they don't look after. It was interesting, the aggregate sizes of the aggregate on our roads and trialled some bigger stuff. We had comments in the past around the smaller stuff, and I remember one particular very experienced contractor saying he couldn't understand why we were using bigger stuff. But it turns out that some places the bigger stuff's doing a great job, but it's not one size fits all. So we've got a bit of a mix across, and some works on hills and some works on flats. Mender Bridge is out. The tender is starting on the 4th of September, so looking good. We've only come across the news the night before around this building and the liability, but Kerry gave his take on it. Was it sort of takes the council being last man standing if a building goes wrong, we were always picking up the bill. Now along the way, the different steps, people ideally have some liability insurance or whatever. So that's still just new, so we'll wait and see how that one goes. But apart from that, answering questions.
Thanks, Robbie. That's great. Any questions in regards to the ops report? You happy to move it then, Robbie? Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Seconders. Karen, thank you. All in agreement, we received that information. Please say aye. Aye. That's carried. Thank you. Now, I'm conscious we've got 3 lots of public excluded minutes. So do Is there any corrections? We could actually accept these minutes and open agenda if there's no corrections or matters arising. So if you've got any corrections or matters arising, I'll ask that we go into public excluded. Is there any discussion? So. Raise your hands up. Maybe we'll go into public excluded and that gives people a chance to ponder. I'm not sure whether there is or not getting feeds. Is there any corrections in any of those 3 lots of minutes is my question. Is there any matters arising that will come from those minutes? Okay, so if that being the case, I think we could probably move those minutes, we'll have to do 3 lots individually, of course, won't we? Yeah, or can we do the whole lot?
I don't see why we can't do this, 3 lots of minutes.
Are you all comfortable with that? Yep, I'm getting some nods, so that's good. So councillors, with that, we have got public excluded minutes in front of us for dated the 29th of July, the 5th of August, and then the restricted minutes of the 29th of July. We will read those minutes. Is someone of the mind to move? Thank you, Karen. That and do I have a seconder that we received? Thank you, Tom. We received those minutes as a true and accurate record of those meeting dates. You're all clear on that? All in agreement with that, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against? That's fine. It's dealt to those minutes and there's no matters arising from those. So with that, I think we can call the meeting to a close. 11:47. Okay, so thanks, councillors. I think we've had time for a good discussion today. Thanks, Vanessa, for your input from afar. Really appreciate that. And Pauline was in and out, but she's got a family celebration today, which is exciting as well. But with